Hey guys, LevelCap here, and today we're going to be talking about the AC-130. I've been able to play quite a few rounds with it and mess around and try different techniques and whatnot. I'm going to explain to some people how to use it because there's clearly a lot of people out there, from my experience anyway, that don't know how to deploy flares, which is very important for keeping the AC-130 alive. We'll also talk about the balance, if it's overpowered, its role that it plays in different game modes like Rush and Conquest. So let's get to it. Now, just joining servers on my own, messing around and getting into the AC-130, it became very clear to me that the majority of people who happened to jump into the AC-130 with me just didn't know how to deploy countermeasures, and I was kind of like mind-boggled at first. I was thinking, like, how could somebody have armored kill and not know what the button for flares is? But then it occurred to me, a lot of people don't really fly in this game. You don't know the button for countermeasures, although even if you didn't fly, still in tanks, you know, deploying smoke and stuff is the same button. So on computer it's X. I'm not sure what it is on console, but whatever your key on console is to deploy flares in the helicopter or deploy smoke in your tank, it's the exact same button. And a good rule of thumb, and something that I'd like to try and initiate here, is that if you're in the AC-130 with somebody that you're not on comms with, that you can't communicate with, a good rule of thumb is to have the person in the number one seat, meaning the guy who has the automatic gun on the side, the minigun, have him deploy flares first, and then the person with the secondary gun will deploy flares second, and you'll alternate that way. It's just a good rule of thumb for people who can't communicate. Person in the big cannon should wait to see if the person in the number one seat deploys flares, and if they don't deploy flares, then you're gonna have to deploy them, obviously. But you can really keep this thing alive a lot longer if you alternate your flares between the two seats, because you have your own individual cooldown for flares. Now in this clip here, I was in the AC-130 all by myself, and I was able to switch back and forth between seat 1 and seat 2 to get the maximum amount of flares available to me. So I was actually able to keep the AC-130 alive quite a long time by myself because I was able to alternate between flares appropriately. Although it kind of weirded me out at first. I was like, why is nobody else getting in the AC-130? I mean, normally it's really hard to try and get in the AC-130. The seats fill up in a second. And then I discovered later, while Matimio and I were trying to record an episode of Double Vision in the AC-130, which failed because of a bug. And the bug was, I'm not really sure what starts the bug, but I think it has to do with two people trying to get into the AC-130 at the exact same time. Only one person can get into it, and then nobody else can spawn on the AC-130. So Matimio and I were having a lot of trouble, and once this bug gets initiated during a game, I believe it won't change for the rest of the round, so only one person can get into the AC-130 for the rest of the round. So Matimio and I basically just couldn't get into the AC-130 for most of the rounds if the bug occurred, which was just a real pain in the butt. But it explains why I was flying solo this time. And just look at this kill streak. So many freaking kills, and I'm not like running around being tactical, whatever. I'm just aiming at targets, switching between seats, and deploying flares whenever I get a lock. Not that difficult to do. Now in terms of which seats I prefer, I think the number 2 seat with this gun here, with the cannon firing with the infrared sight, is probably the best option, because one, infrared just makes infantry targets extremely easy to point out, and two, the blast radius on the cannon is great. 3, the cannon doesn't have any sort of drop, so you don't have to aim above your targets. You can just aim directly at your targets, and just look at the splash damage coming out right now. This is another game where the glitch occurred, and I was in the AC-130 by myself again because somebody else couldn't join it. And I was alternating between the seats, managing to keep the thing alive for a very long time. And this right here is a 30 kill streak. 30 people die on this one AC-130 run on the first set of MCOMs. So let's talk about balance here. And obviously the AC-130 would be getting more kills if there was 2 people in it. With 2 people gunning down at the same time, you would almost double your kills. So with just me in the AC-130 on this first set of MCOMs, able to keep it alive, switching seats, deploying flares, I'm able to kill 30 players off the MCOMs. Now, is that balanced? That's basically the entire team if you divide up the teams into teams of 32. I killed everybody approximately once on the enemy team, and I was just a huge force. Now check this out. B's armed. There's 3 enemies around B. One splash just took out 3. There's 3 more guys approaching B. Another splash takes out those 2 guys. One last guy approaching B took out the other guy. There we go. Like, if the AC-130 is up, you're not defusing B. That's all there is to it. A lot of people have been screaming overpowered. You know, the AC-130 is ruining rush games. I kind of have to agree. I think a talented AC-130 team can keep it alive long enough to do enough serious damage so that people with Iglas won't be able to take it out. Also, a trained AC-130 team can watch the smoke trails from those Iglas coming in to take out the AC-130 and just kill the guys before they get a second volley off. So you actually just have so many tools at your disposal to keep this thing up in the air and just decimate the enemy team. Now, as we all know, DICE takes their sweet time when patching games, well, at least when patching Battlefield 3. So, regardless of whether or not the AC-130 is overpowered or if it's ruining rush games, which I definitely think it is, we're going to see this AC-130 in its current state in the game for probably months and months to come, because they're not going to patch this thing for months, and even when they do patch it, I'm kind of skeptical about what they might do to the AC-130. There's actually an On The Level episode coming out with Luton and I, and we're going to talk about some possible solutions to balancing the AC-130 and potentially making it something that people don't hate or loathe. Because, I mean, let's be honest, unless you're in the AC-130, everybody hates the damn thing, because nobody likes getting blown up by a giant gunship shell that they can't really do much about. Now let's talk about the anti-air turrets. By switching to your secondary gun, you can switch into the anti-air turrets, which are mounted on top of the AC-130. Pretty sure in real life these anti-air turrets don't actually exist. They look very much like DICE inventions here. But any pilot worth anything is going to fly at you from underneath the AC-130. He's not going to give you that shot. So the anti-air turrets become almost useless in a lot of ways. They're a little bit more useful on conquest game modes. You could take out helicopters potentially, or there's just a more variety of pilots so you have more targets to shoot at. But still, in rush game modes, there's a few times where we had guys in the Frogfoot that would just fly super slow behind the AC-130, and they would kill us in one single pass, and there was literally nothing we could do about it because the anti-air turrets don't really aim anywhere other than up. And it seems kind of silly that DICE would put 2 anti-air turrets on top of the AC-130. You know, the B-17 Flying Fortress in World War II had turrets all over that thing. The whole point was to be able to shoot airplanes coming at you from any angle. Why would they put 2 anti-air turrets on top of the plane? It seems a little bit silly to me. But either way, the AC-130 I still think is a bit overpowered. The problem that I really have with the effectiveness that a good jet pilot has against the AC-130 is that in a rush game, so much is determined by the A-10 pilot and the Frogfoot pilot, because if the A-10 pilot is good enough to either keep the Frogfoot pilot busy or take down the Frogfoot, then the AC-130 is going to have an infinitely more easy time of taking out the enemy. You're not going to have to switch to that anti-air turret to try and take out incoming jets, or worry about those guys at all or get taken out by them immediately. You're going to have so much more time in the AC-130 to just decimate the infantry force on the ground. Now, I decided to conduct a little experiment. I joined a 64-player rush game, and I was playing here on Bondar Desert, and I decided that the entire round I was not going to spawn into anything other than the AC-130. If the AC-130 blew up, I would just wait on the spawn screen until it respawned. Now, I did accidentally spawn a few times and then suicide myself, but I was just waiting for the AC-130 the whole game just to see how good I could do. Now, the experiment wasn't perfect because there was a few times where I just didn't get into the AC-130. 2 other people got into it, and I had to wait another round of the AC-130 getting blown up and then respawning, which does take quite a while. It's several minutes, depending on what the server has set up for its respawn time. It's usually between a minute or a minute and a half. But here's the end result of this round and how many points I got from it. 101 kills to 18 deaths. That's just getting kills from spawning in the AC-130 and raining havoc from down above. If somebody can just spawn in the AC-130 and get that amazing of a KDR and just dominate the enemy team, there's clearly something a little bit imbalanced about this weapon. So stay tuned for the next episode of On the Level. Luton and I are going to be discussing potential fixes for the AC-130, what DICE could do to actually make it a good tool and something that not everybody hates. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Perhaps you'll learn how to alternate your flares and keep the AC-130 up in the air a little bit longer. And I'll see you guys next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.